Whispers in the midnight air, like a wish that's lost somewhere. Stars align to guide me home, to a place I've never known. Through the silence, through the dark, I feel your pulse, a glowing spark. Across the galaxies we fly, two hearts written in the sky. Echoes of stardust call my name, burning bright in love's old flame. Every beat a guiding light, dancing through the endless night. We're the dream the stars have spun, you and I, forever. Frozen time begins to move as I find your rhythm's groove. Through the storm and through the haze, you're the fire that lights my days. Through the silence, through the dark, I feel your pulse, a glowing spark. Across the galaxies we fly, two hearts written in the sky. Echoes of stardust call my name, burning bright in love's old flame. Every beat a guiding light, dancing through the endless night. We're the dream the stars have spun, you and I, forever.
Hello and welcome back to the Pixel Tea. It doesn't require a great amount of imagination to suppose that the very first symbols that our ancestors noticed and tried to analyze were the natural features that surrounded them. Long before man had thought about conveying his own ideas by scoring marks in the sand or scratching them onto rocks, he would have looked to the landscape and the elements to help him orient his place in the universe. This might sound mundane, but open your front door and see what's out there. It might be a mountain or a tower block, trees or walls. Maybe it's a body of water or a river. Whatever it is, we make these features into symbols, representative images of our realm of experience. These features become as much a part of our internal landscapes as they are a part of our external landscapes. The great leap occurs when we realize that our own individual interpretation of reality, whatever form it takes, is a part of the collective consciousness. The most easily shared experience of symbols in the natural world happens when we look to the skies. Since this is the common ground of humanity, visible to everyone and full of features, who regularly give us a way of measuring time. It's no surprise that the sun, with its reliable and regular appearance and disappearances, and its glorious illuminatory powers, is the ultimate symbol of the Godhead in whatever form it takes. These days, most parts of the planet that we inhabit suffer from long light pollution, but nevertheless, the allure of the skies, particularly the night skies, is compelling. We're looking at the elements in terms of man's imaginative experience of them rather than the elements considered as fundamental atomic building blocks. The basic four elements that man first defined have a visceral significance corresponding to our emotions and states of being. They determine the characteristics of a whole variety of different things, including the four humors of the natural world: hot, cold, moist, and dry. The signs of the zodiac colors, and for alchemists and others, the four aspects of man. Fire equates to the spirit, water is the soul, air is the mind, and earth is the body. Once again, we see a melding together of the microcosm and the microcosm. The Platonic solids encompass the full range of the elements within their geometric shapes. The difference between male, active thinking, and female passive intuition is defined by the elements too. Male is perceived as fire and air, and female as earth and water. Often in the West, the fifth element, ether, is ignored. Ether is the essential unifying principle and a reminder that the universe is constructed from a unified diversity. The elements naturally are represented in all the features that make up our planet. The tricky thing, of course, is that the form of the elements changes, so we also need to be able to convey this idea. Whereas heaven seems to be about a correct balance of all of the elements working in harmony. Hell is a corresponding imbalance. Popularity, it is an imaginary place of excess fire, but it is symbolized equally by the savage winds that blow across the desert environment, carrying with them, for example, all the per-essential demons of the Assyrian pantheon, such as Pazuzu and Lilitu. Tellingly, when there is an imbalance of the elements on the earth, we call it natural disaster. The basic geometric shapes that are coded for the elements form a fundamental part of understanding, symbols as explained in the first signs. These simple shapes combine and juxtapose with one another to make a profound statement or to inspire philosophical concepts that largely strive towards integration and harmony between opposing forces. Squaring the circle, for example, is not only a symbolic way of combining spirit with matter, but also a way of joining the created universe with the greater cosmos. This device is a fundamental principle of sacred and secular geometry. The upward pointing triangle, symbolizing fire, converges with the downward pointing triangle to make the six-pointed star. Again, a symbol that unifies the earth with the heaven. This is reflected in the alchemical principle as above, so below, that it is repeated all over the world and which is included in the Lord's Prayer. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This idea enables some of us to trust that everything is as it should be, and that there is some greater intelligence out there and the darkness beyond. This idea is discernible throughout most of the world's faith systems, reflecting our constant need to bounce back and forth between macrocosm and microcosm. Man's relationship to the elements and to the landscape reveal its timeless need to communicate with this higher intelligence. Good to see you, Miss Jeeps. I see that you stopped by for just a moment. I look forward to hearing your feedback on what I have to present today. I've been spending a lot of time reading and looking back on my notes through these past years and trying to combine it into a stream. Let me sip some coffee here. But I'm glad you like the title. The Plasma Veil of the Electromagnetic Messiah. This seems to be what the consistent pattern is that I've seen in my time in study and in my participation here on YouTube. So let's see here. I have a lot of my notes to share with you. Again, this is just my perspective and my opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct, but just some thoughts to share with all of you. So let's see what I have here. What I've learned is that in this vastness of space, stars ignite, galaxies turn, and invisible rivers of charged light flow across the cosmos. Yet within us, the same mystery pulses. Each cell, each heartbeat glows with an inner current, a spark of living plasma echoing the stars themselves. The journey from matter to spirit is likened to a rugged trail filled with obstacles that strengthen the psyche. Purpose, whether grand or simple, enables perseverance, transforming suffering into a meaningful curriculum of growth. True purpose arises naturally from within, not from external validation. This is the journey of awakening from the subtle glow within to the vast living earth and beyond, to the cosmic web in which we are all suspended. Spiritual evolution is a personal responsibility and inner journey. The world we experience is described as Maya, an illusion birthed from a deeper, hidden, and spiritual source. Sorry if I'm having some mic interference here. Hold on just a moment. Okay, sorry about that. So the veil separating us from higher reality is thin, and only inner effort can piece it together. So this universal search for this union is seen across cultures and religions. There's a common longing for union with something greater. The word religion itself, from Latin religare, means to reconnect. And also, just as in yoga, to yoke or unite. So this union, whether called God, Tao, the One, or Great Spirit, is not found externally but within. Mystics from Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, native traditions, and Greek philosophy all describe a similar inward realization of the divine within. The great work is introduced as the lifelong spiritual process of self realization and the awakening of spirit and intelligence from the ignorance, fear, and superstition. So, wisdom and happiness are not entitlements, but earned through the inner labor. Pain, hardship, and sorrow are necessary tools for spiritual evolution. Just as King Solomon built a temple he could never complete, each generation contributes to the ongoing construction of human consciousness. This metaphor of temple building is central. The true temple is internal and must be built through inner refinement. Let's stop for just a second and check out this chat. Good to see you, Red. So, Red, this is going to be my perspective on what I've been working with you through the years, and let's see what your opinion is going to be about it. This past summer, my reading journey became a map, not just of ideas, but of initiations. So each book opened a portal, revealing connections between the ancient and the scientific, the mystical and the measurable. So seemingly diverse subjects began to converge. I couldn't believe it, pointing toward a single living thread. The universe as consciousness in motion, spiraling and breathing alive. From the Tao of physics, I witnessed how the language of quantum fields and relativity mirrors the techniques of Eastern mysticism, both dissolving the illusion of separation and revealing an interconnected dynamic cosmos. So the author, Capra's vision affirmed what sages and scientists alike whisper, that the fabric of reality is not a solid, but sacred, a dance of energy, flow, and unity. So, the Hindu deity Shiva, in his form as Nataraja, the Lord of the dance. The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, Volume 2, it deepened this understanding, bringing the Merkaba, sacred geometry, and the evolution of human consciousness into sharp focus. The patterns that underlie all creation are not just abstract, they're embedded within us and encoded in the energy fields reflected in the cosmos. And in the book of nature, I was reminded that wisdom doesn't always arrive in symbols or equations. Sometimes it's in the hush of wind, through trees, in the turning of the seasons, in the quiet guidance of earth itself. Nature, too, is a teacher of sacred rhythms and deep time. And with the Book of Weather, I explored the atmospheric forces that shape our lives. What began as a study in meteorology became something more, a realization that weather, like plasma, is a language of the sky, a form of cosmic communication. The cosmic dance brought it all into clarity: the sacred geometry, the fractal nature of the universe, and the timeless truth that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm. Human consciousness is not separate from the stars. It is their echo, their expression. Through it all, I found myself circling the same truth again and again, that what we call plasma physics may in fact be modern language for something the ancients knew intimately: plasma, the fourth state of matter. It's not just electrically charged gas. It is a carrier of memory. It forms cosmic structures that mirrors sacred geometry and may be the very medium through which consciousness communicates across space and time. And what I figured out, at the center of this spiral of insight lies the concept of the monad, the indivisible whole, the origin point, the one. Whether in the keys of Solomon or in solar discharges shaped by magnetic fields, the monad returns as both seed and sum, the divine spark within all things. These books together have done more than inform me. They initiated a remembering, a deeper listening, a realignment with something ancient, alive, and still unfolding. And I figured out that this is integration, and that this is resonance with the field of the real. Wrong slide. Okay, so you can see that there's also the Book of Enoch that I've been reading and studying. And I thought to myself, could the Book of Enoch be interpreted as a near-death experience, an NDE? So maybe it is possible to interpret parts of one Enoch, especially the Book of the Watchers and Book of Parables, as descriptions of a visionary or altered state of experience, and perhaps similar to modern accounts of these near-death or ecstatic mystical experiences. Because for me, I listened to a lot of near-death experiences and found a lot of similarities in their stories. And when I say a lot of near-death experiences, I mean I've been listening to these stories for at least 15 years. Oh, sorry about that. I choked on my coffee. Good to see you, Miss Esra. I'm so glad that you stopped by. Glad that you stopped by. Okay. So then I started to pay attention to this bodily separation and ascent that Enoch is speaking about. And he describes being taken up into heaven and shown the secrets of the cosmos and brought before the throne of God. And the motifs found in many of these NDEs are similar: transformation of perception. His eyes are open to see beyond human vision. He hears and sees music and light interwoven, also typical of NDEs or deep mystical states. So, this ineffable light and sound, the glory of the Great One, is described as blinding, multi-hued, radiant, which resonates with modern NDE accounts of overwhelming light and vibration. So, from a psychological or phenomenological lens, such a great word, one could view Enoch's ascent as a kind of symbolic retelling of a near-death or near-transcendent state, encoded in ancient cosmological language. So then I had to ask, how could Enoch's visions resemble electrical circuitry? And then I thought, if we interpret his heavenly visions symbolically and not literally, they describe patterns that modern minds might visualize in terms of energy flow and circuitry. The wheels within wheels imagery in Ezekiel, but also echoed in this literature of Enoch, can be likened to feedback systems or rotating electromagnetic fields. The fire that moves without consuming evokes plasma, lightning, or current. Rivers of light or streams of glory could parallel neural pathways or energy channels, metaphorically, the heavens as cosmic neural network. So, in a modern interpretive frame, Enoch's heavens could be seen as a symbolic rendering of a consciousness encountering the fundamental energetic architecture of reality, what we now describe as something like electric or computational circuitry. So if Enoch's vision was a near-death or ecstatic neural event, the brain might have represented overwhelming inputs, neural discharges, hypoxia-induced visions, intense emotion through archetypal patterns of light, geometry, and sound, which his cultural framework expressed as thrones, fires, and angelic choirs, wheels, stars, and rivers of light, the harmony of creation. In that sense, Enoch's heaven could be understood as a neural cosmic feedback loop, where divine light equals consciousness energy and angelic order equals structured information, music of the spheres, which also equals vibrational coherence of the cosmos. So the electrical circuitry of the heavens is not literal wiring, but a poetic map of information and energy flow, consciousness perceiving its own underlying structure. The pattern repeats on a planetary scale. Earth floats in a sea of plasma, the ionosphere, the magnetosphere, Schumann resonances, auroras, and they dance as around the planet breathes charged light. In a Gaia vision, these layers form a planetary aura, a macro bioplasma field, echoing the subtle envelope around each person. And then I thought, what if Lucifer of the Bible wasn't an angel at all, but a cosmic event. The name Lucifer appears only once in Scripture, in Isaiah 14:12, and it actually refers to the morning star, which was Venus, not Satan. The confusion came later through mistranslations between Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Now, if we look at this through the lens of the electric universe theory, Venus may once have been a plasma active comet-like planet, discharging massive electrical energy as it moved into its modern orbit. Ancient people might have seen this fiery celestial body blazing across the sky, its plasma tail lighting up the heavens, and recorded it symbolically as if the fall of Lucifer, the light bringer. In this very view, the dragon's tail in Revelation 12 could describe a cometary or plasma tail sweeping across the sky and scattering meteors, not a literal devil, but a real astronomical event later mythologized. So maybe Lucifer's fall wasn't a spiritual rebellion, but a cosmic plasma discharge, a planetary realignment written into scripture as myth and prophecy, a memory of when the heavens themselves were alive with fire. Many modern researchers in alternative cosmology believe that ancient descriptions of Mount Meru may actually be encoded memories of plasma formation in Earth's atmosphere or near the North Pole. Maybe Mount Meru is not a physical mountain. Maybe it's a memory of ancient plasma discharge, an ancient plasma discharge event witnessed in the sky centered at the Earth's magnetic pole. Change the slide and look for the correct one. This one here. So these are images that I've found on the internet. They very well could be faked images. But when I was looking through, I could see this common theme of these cycles. And so wouldn't it be convenient that in these cycles, this area of the North Pole is filled up with snow, and that technology would also conveniently be able to cover this entrance of the concept of inner Earth? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this ties into the idea of the monad and of eventually a plasma styled macro or micronova of the sun, and the 7 sacred vows of these planetary spheres when they align just right and create an event of what you guys know who hang out with me over here at the Pixel Tea, which is this concept of the squatter man. But even in this last image here in the center above, right in the middle of the words spiritual cartography, this is supposedly a drawing from the 1800s. And how would they have known about this inner Earth and this North and these South poles? So let's go. Let's see where I'm at here in my notes. Go back to here. You can see above the "Here's what they expect to find at the North Pole" article from the early 1900s. The image is looks like a frequency, and this was a screenshot that I took from Mr. MBB333 of some kind of frequency that was emitting itself recently. Um, and I think that that is a big indication of these seven sacred vows or these planetary spheres realigning themselves. And I also think that this three-eye atlas and this planet X have something to do with this magnetic shift, and also of the weakening of the magnetosphere. But here is a recent image of Planet X, and this was from the 12th of October. And this image here is showing us what Ezekiel apparently saw in his NDE. So it is stated and prophesied that in the end times, we will start to see these shifts and these signs and these symbols in the heavens. Let me take this off. And let's change. So the music that I'm choosing for today has a lot to do with this this resonance and this frequency. It has a lot to do with the way this realm works. Let's see here. So the Axis Mundi myth is nearly in every culture. Yggdrasil in Norse lore, the the pillar in Egypt, the world tree in Mesoamerica, the descriptions of Meru changing form, sometimes tree-like, sometimes luminous, and also sometimes rotating. So the legends of gods descending via lightning or luminous stairs. So what could Mount Meru be? In the Hindu and Buddhist and the Jain cosmology, Mount Meru is the cosmic axis, the center of the world, the pillar connecting heaven, earth, and the underworld. And it's sometimes described as shaped like an hourglass or column surrounded by rotating heavens and elemental layers. And many texts position it at the North Pole and not the Himalayas. So some plasma cosmology researchers like Anthony Peratt compared global ancient myths to natural plasma phenomenon. Let's hold on here for a minute because now I have to change my screen. Oops. Okay, let me know if you guys can hear me. I have a newer computer, and so I'm trying to figure out how to use these different my albums here. But this is my album labeled The Squatter Man. And these are different examples of Mr. Peratt's plasma that he had shared with us. Hold on a second here. I'm on two different devices. I'm a little rusty here. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So these pillars of light and these world trees and these cosmic mountains, the plasma parallel to it would be a Z-pinch or plasma column seen during intense solar or geomagnetic discharge. And you can see that here's the examples of the physicists and also different images. So there's rotating heavenly rings around Meru, and the plasma toroids around rings around the Earth's magnetic poles. 4 rivers flowing from Meru. These could be the Birkeland currents, the electric field streams, and polar plasma geometry. And the Golden Rainbow Bridge, like the Vihara path, could be the auroral arc phenomenon. When the Earth is struck by massive solar storms or interplanetary plasma interactions, the polar auroras can amplify dramatically, forming towering plasma structures visible across the sky. These persistent auroral columns could have been interpreted by ancient people as literal glowing mountains, or the ladder to the heavens, like we see up here. This ladder here, or here to the right, here in the center. Taoist sages mapped chi through valleys and peaks, and Vedic seers taught of prana in sky and in stone, and the Egyptian architects aligned temples to the earth's hidden lines. Greek philosophers called it the anima mundi, the soul of the world, all described as a single truth, currents of life flowing not only in bodies but also through the land, the sky, and the cosmos. See, look at how it really, when this event last occurred in all of these different cultures. It's absolutely amazing to me. See, it's the same image of this plasma event. Goes on and on. So the plasma physics interpretation of this 1,000-year reign of Christ, in traditional Christian prophecy, Christ returns, evil is bound, and earth experiences 1,000 years of peace and divine rule. And I'm curious if that's when the last time this happened, where all of these artifacts are from. But when seen through a plasma cosmology lens, this could symbolize a shift in Earth's electromagnetic environment, a plasma-dominated age of stability. Christ's return is often described in terms of blinding light, lightning fire from heaven, and a shining aura. For example, for as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Matthew 24, verse 27. Jesus himself can be seen as a composite, a convergence of earlier deities, solar myths, and archetypal roles. Even his name carries echoes of the divine. Jesu in French means I am, the godly self-declaration. Jesus in Spanish preserves the ancient phonetic line. In this light, Jesus becomes not just a historical figure, but part of a broader mythic chain, an embodiment of the same story told in different tongues, mirrored in both sky and scripture. This mirrors high energy plasma discharge, a global scale, auroral or electric phenomenon. Many ancient gods are portrayed descending in plasma columns, a radiant sky event, not just metaphorically, but visually. So, Satan bound is the meaning that it's when the electromagnetic has a stillness to it. When Satan is bound in the abyss, chaos ceases. Electrically speaking, this could represent reduction in cosmic electromagnetic turbulence. Stabilized solar output, or Earth in a plasma sheath of protection. In other words, no more geomagnetic chaos. Mankind enters a golden age of atmospheric calm, stable agriculture, and mental peace. The number 1000 as a precession, this as the cosmic cycle marker. Some researchers think the 1000 years is not literal, but refers to a natural celestial cycle. So the possibilities is that the plasma calm during part of the solar or galactic current sheet passes. So 1/6 of the precession of the equinoxes equals 4,320 years. Divided by 6, this equals 720. Close to the symbolic great year divisions. Electromagnetic lull following a solar micronova. Thus, a 1,000-year peace could be the recovery phase after a plasma cataclysm, where Earth enters electrical harmony with the sun. So what is the kingdom of heaven on earth in terms of this idea of plasma? It may not be angels walking around physically. It could be a time when the sky glows with perpetual auroral beauty. Radiation shields strengthen, weather stabilizes, and consciousness evolves under higher plasma coherence. Ancients believed heaven descends when the sky becomes luminous. The New Jerusalem descending may be auroral, a radiant crystalline plasma dome appearing in the sky, perceived as a celestial city. Trying to see if I can find a certain image that I'm looking for. I don't see it here either. Okay. So Christ's return in light is a global plasma discharge or the aurora event. And the Satan bound is the electromagnetic chaos suppressed. And 1,000 years of peace, the New Jerusalem descends, is this cosmic cycle of plasma stability and the persistent auroral structure over the pole. Hidden within the texts like the Key of Solomon lie patterns that mirror these currents. Often seen as ceremonial magic, its symbols can also be read as a technology of consciousness, a way of tuning the human instrument to natural fields. The magic circle becomes a capacitor, concentrating subtle currents at the Earth's nodes. Pentacles and sigils function like circuit boards, encoding harmonic ratios and cosmic patterns. Metals serve as conductors and resonators. Chants and angelic names vibrate like sound currents through body and space. Planetary hours align the ritual with celestial rhythms, like striking a chord in the cosmic song. So, this way, ritual is less about summoning spirits and more about mapping and harmonizing with fields, currents, and consciousness. Geometry, sound, and timing as interfaces between the human and the planet. Music is one of the most universally powerful forces in human life. It hits us emotionally, mentally, socially, and even physically. Before language, humans used to rhyme. Humans used rhythm and tone. Music bypasses logic and speaks directly to the body and subconscious. That's why even babies and animals respond to it. Even strangers will sing along to the same chorus and feel connected. Across cultures, music is seen as a divine tool, from Tibetan chants to church choirs to ancient drumming. Many traditions say sound is the fabric of creation itself. In the beginning was the Word. I'm going to play this here for you for just a moment. So, music reshapes the brain and it releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter tied to love, joy, and reward. It synchronizes the brain waves, helping with focus or relaxation depending on the tempo. And this stimulates memory centers. That's why Alzheimer patients can recall lyrics even when they forget faces. It regulates the nervous system, lowering cortisol and slowing the heart rate. It improves speech and motor skills. Music therapy helps stroke victims relearn language and movement. So, scientifically, music is medicine in frequency form. I'll be back in just a moment. I have to let my doggy out to go potty. I'll be right back. Okay. Let's check this chat. Oh, Logical Spark, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, I hope I'm not boring you guys, but these are just things that I've been interested in my life. So maybe my perspective may influence you somehow, and if not, I'm glad you're here. Anyways. Okay. I think I want this one instead. So in Christianity, in the beginning was the Word, vibration as the first act of existence. In Hinduism, Om is believed to be the primordial sound of the universe. And that's what this is. That's what that says in the middle is Om. In ancient Egypt, Thoth was said to have sung the world into order. Indigenous tribes used drums and chants to call ancestors and shift consciousness. Music is a bridge between realms, a tool of ritual prayer, trance, and remembrance. When rhythm takes over, the ego dissolves and something ancient wakes up. So this is right here. On the left and to the right, you see these small images, and I had shared this in a post on my channel a few weeks ago. And those are zoomed in images of stars. And look at the sacred geometry of that star. I couldn't believe it. Here, the third picture to the right, this is the sacred geometry of the planets. And below the words, the harmonic blueprint, I don't know if you guys can see it here where my cursor is at, but I caught it for a moment in a triangle, and it looks like it's an eye in the sky. I found that really, really fascinating. But the music of the spheres and the circuitry of the stars were an ancient Pythagorean idea. And it holds that these celestial bodies emit harmonic frequencies as they move, producing a cosmic symphony. The stars could be seen as nodes in an immense electrical or informational web connecting through gravitational, electromagnetic, or vibrational resonance. The music might represent the oscillations or harmonics of that network, cosmic data encoded as frequency. The ancient mystical vision translate the mathematical harmony of energy into aesthetic and spiritual imagery. Light as current, sound as waveform, and divinity is the underlying code. Across many sacred texts and mystical writings, certain angels are described not just visually, but sonically, often with sounds that resemble thunder, rushing wind, or even crackling energy, very similar to how electricity sounds. The word for angel in Hebrew is malach, which means messenger or sent one. This term emphasizes the angel's role as divine, carrying out God's will rather than a description of their essence. The word can refer to both divine beings and human messengers, but more than half of its appearances in the Hebrew Bible refer to supernatural beings. In Sanskrit, angel can be translated as Deva or Deva Duata, meaning divine messenger or angel, and refers to spiritual beings in Hindu mythology. Other terms like Anjali can also imply a messenger or divine offering, while names like Viha can mean angel or heaven. The translation for angel in Mandarin is Tianqi. This term literally means heaven's messenger and refers to the spiritual being or very kind and helpful person. So these angels, the seraphim in the Hebrew and biblical, their sound is described as crying out, "Holy, holy, holy," with voices strong enough to shake the temple's foundations. Isaiah 6, verse 4, like a resonating thunder. The cherubim, or the living creatures in Ezekiel's visions, their wings sounded like the roar of rushing waters, like the voice of the Almighty, like the tumult of an army. Ezekiel 1, verse 24, comparable to jet engines or electrical storms, said to sound like the final trumpet blast shaking heaven and earth. That is from the Gabriel blowing the trumpet in Christian and Islamic end time lore. And in the angel of Revelation, in the book of Revelation, voices like many waters or loud trumpet blasts. Again, this vibrational and thundering. And in the Islamic angel Israfil, Quranic tradition, holds a trumpet to his lips, waiting for God's command to blast the signal of resurrection, often described as piercing across the dimensions. So are these angelic sounds like electricity? I think they are. Many mystical descriptions compare divine or angelic sound to crackling fire, lightning, or cosmic vibration. So again, in Ezekiel, God is seen as fire flashing with lightning, and the accompanying sound mirrors that rushing electrical force. And in the Kabbalistic and Gnostic texts describe angels as pure frequency or vibration, not flesh, closer to sound waves or electromagnetic energy. Even in modern near-death experiences, people report hearing an intense humming or buzzing before perceiving this angelic being. So in this symbolic language, the angels equal pure energy beings. Their speech or their movement equals resonant frequency, and the frequency equals sound like the electricity, the thunder, or the wind. Again, let's talk about these trumpets. In the Bible, in the book of Revelations, the trumpet stories, these 7 trumpets are sounded by angels, each unleashing a cosmic event, storms, fire, quakes, and darkness. It's not the right one. Go back to this one. And in the Old Testament or the Torah, the shofar, the ram's horn, is blown to signal divine arrival or warning. At Mount Sinai, the sound grew louder and louder like thunder. And in the Islamic, Angel Israfil blows the sur, the trumpet, twice, once for death of all creation, second for resurrection. So that's why I wanted to show this again, because you see that image again above this article that says here's what they expect to find at the North Pole. That was what we had in terms of frequency. And I was thinking about these trumpets. So in Hinduism, Shankha has a conch blast. Though not called trumpets, the conch shells blown by gods like Vishnu's Panchajana signal the start or end of cosmic cycles or battles. And I'm sorry if I'm completely destroying that language pronunciation. So the process of an electrical impulse carrying a message in the brain is called an action potential. Action potentials are rapid electrical signals that travel along the axon of a neuron, allowing brain cells to communicate with each other and the rest of the body. These impulses are generated by a temporary change in the neuron's membrane potential, driven by the flow of ions in and out of the cell. So the ion flow, the generation of an action potential, involves a rapid temporary shift in electrical charge across the neuron's membrane. Once a neuron is stimulated enough, it fires an action potential which is complete and uniform, this electrical impulse. And the signal propagation, this action potential travels down the neuron's axon to the next neuron or target cell. And the communication at the junction between the neurons, the synapses, the electrical signal triggers the release, the signal release of the neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that continue the communication to the next cell. The brain interprets information by varying the frequency number of these action potentials, similar to how binary code works, rather than their strength. When you activate each point and pathway, you light up your light grid, the sacred geometries throughout your body. Activating your entire light grid is powerful, supportive experience as you feel your divine blueprint come to life and provide an internal structure to support you through all of life's changes. Although the 33 keys are based on the wisdom teachings of the Tree of Life, you do not need to know anything about Kabbalah to be nourished by the 33 keys. The Tree of Life is a universal initiation path with 33 developmental steps marking the soul's journey of psycho-spiritual awakening. The 33 keys correspond to energy points mapped out in the grid work pattern on the human body, connecting the chakras to the brain, nervous system, and entire body. Activating the 33 keys reawakens our innate spiritual capacities such as transpersonal love, profound joy, deep wisdom, and inner peace, and activates the healing grid or matrix within the body, psyche, and the spirit. This is the spiritual template that is in our human design and birthright, but becomes distorted through our wounds and challenging life experiences. When all 33 keys are activated within us, it provides our body, psyche, and spirit with a profound internal structure that can support a more integrated, spiritually mature, and unified consciousness. Across cultures, the voice of angels and the sound of the divine intervention is never quiet. Its vibration, electricity, thunder, resonance, trumpet, wind, the sound of raw power moving through creation. It's less like music and more like pure frequency, shaking reality awake. So the physicist Anthony Peratt studied high energy plasma formations created in the laboratory with his Z-pinch experiments. I showed you the slides earlier in the stream. He discovered that when plasma filaments compress under intense current, they form torus ringed column shapes that form Earth's perspective. And they look exactly like that squatting figure ancient people were drawing as gods or humans. They were drawing the sky under electrical duress. And I want to show you this. Oops. I was going to show a different one, but I want to show you this one here first. Hold on a minute. This is a 500 bagel flask of a carbon flame. And even the shape of what he has as this glass dome kind of reminds me of what these images that they've been showing us about what is what's protecting us in our magnetosphere. Even look at the top. That could be that eye in the sky. That could be what we see as the dome above, But do you see the circuitry around there? You see that toroidal field and that skirt and that donut? To me, that is a miniature version of what must be around us, protecting us, is that electromagnetic field. So this plasma structure, or this Z pinch, is, like I said earlier, is this cosmic tree, this world pillar, and the squatter man is pinched ends forming lobes or arms, and this is the posture that it gives us. So instead of stick people, these were global witnesses of auroral megastorms, possibly triggered by solar outbursts. Uh, and this electrical discharge. The squatter man appears in Australia in Aboriginal rock art, North America, the Anasazi and the Hopi carvings, in South Africa, the Bushman paintings, in Scandinavia and Siberia, Neolithic Europe, South America, and Easter Island glyphs. This universal shape implies every structure saw the same thing in the sky, meaning it was planetary in scale and not local. The Norse called it Yggdrasil, the world tree. The Egyptians carved the Djed pillar spine, or the spine of Osiris. The Hindus called it Mount Meru. Christians saw it as the pillar of fire, or Jacob's ladder. The Greeks saw Atlas holding up the sky. And even the Rastafarians call it Zion rising. So the different names are all the same plasma archetype. Hold on just a moment, I'll be right back. Had to get myself some water. So most plasma physicists in this field agree that the squatter man was probably seen near or above the North or South Pole, stretching vertically into space like a cosmic pillar of light. This could happen if Earth passed through a solar superstorm or a micronova event, a comet-induced electrical discharge, a galactic current sheet, or a Birkeland current interaction. When that happens, the planet's magnetic poles concentrate the energy into a massive auroral plasma columns, not the soft dancing lights we see today, but towering, structured, and plasma geometries. So these ancient myths described it not as a storm, but as a being. And the people didn't think it was weather, they thought a cosmic entity had appeared. So in Mesopotamia, it was Marduk or Ishtar with wings. In Egypt, it was Osiris rising. In Hinduism, it was Shiva in fiery form. In the Norse myth, Bifrost burning between worlds. Bifrost. So some indigenous legends even say the sky opened and a great being of fire stood between earth and heaven. And this wasn't just a lightning flash. It's likely it lasted for days, weeks, or even years. The plasma columns like this can be persistent, especially if linked to long-standing geomagnetic disturbance. So entire generations may have grown up under a luminous sky god, which later faded, becoming religion instead of memory. I'm starting to think that the Squatter Man is the missing link between ancient religion and plasma cosmology. It suggests humanity's oldest gods were not fictional, but electrical. And more importantly, if it happened before, it could happen again. So plasma cosmologists believe we are approaching another solar upheaval cycle where the sky may once again open with structures mankind has forgotten. I want to go back to this really quick. I think that this is Revelation 19, verse 15. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, with which he shall smite the nations, and he shall rule them. Let's see here. Hold on a minute. With a rod of iron. I think that that's what this is about. I'm trying to figure out. Good to see you, Calyx. I've been doing really well. Thank you for asking. I hope you are doing well yourself. So, he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and the wrath of the Almighty God. I think that this is plasma discharge, truthfully. So what is this? What is a sacred circuit? It's this torus field. The torus field, a self-sustaining energy loop found in galaxies, stars, Earth's magnetic field, and even the human heart or the aura. Energy flows out from the center, it loops around and returns a perfect feedback system. That's why I showed you the short earlier of that plasma ball. The Ouroboros, the ancient serpent eating its tail, symbolizing infinity and renewal. The Mobius strip, a one-sided surface used in sacred geometry to represent unity of inner and outer beginning and end. The breath, inhale and exhale, the simplest sacred circuit of life. The circuit of light in the Kabbalistic tree, the chakra system, or the meridians, energy moving in cycles to maintain balance. It's the pattern through which source expresses itself into form, recycling itself endlessly. So again, is this the monad? And I think that it is. In many traditions, the sacred circuit is an expression of the monad. So, monad from Greek, monos, meaning oneness, is the prime source, the original unit of existence. In Pythagorean and Hermetic philosophy, the monad emanates the dyad, the duality, but remains whole. That emanation, the outflow return, is the circuit. In Gnostic and Neoplatonic teachings, the monad radiates like the sun. Its light returns to itself in recognition. And in Taoism, it's the Tao giving birth to yin and yang, which then circles back in harmony, a sacred circuit. At its core, the sacred circuit is the closed loop movement of energy, consciousness, or life force, where output returns to source and regenerates. It's the fundamental architecture of sustainability in the universe. So in the Kabbalah, Ein Sof, or the monad, emanates light through 10 Sephiroth and returns upward in ascension. In Hermeticism, that which is above is like that which is below, a full circuit. And we'll go back to this. In Taoism, Tao gives birth to one to two, yin and yang, 2 to 3, and then returns to the Tao. Hinduism is creation, which is Brahma, preservation, which is Vishnu, and dissolution, Shiva, is the endless loop. Even modern physics is circling back to this idea through resonance, feedback systems, and plasma dynamics. So why the sacred circuit matters? Because it reveals how to live in harmony with the universal law. You break the circuit and you end up with disease, burnout, chaos, and entropy. If you honor the circuit, health, renewal, manifestation, enlightenment. This is why breath work, prayer, and circulation exercises, chanting, fasting, meditation, all involve conscious looping. They connect output back to source. Humans fall into suffering when we output without return, which is exhaustion, or intake without release, which is stagnation. So, plasma dynamics is where ancient mystical ideas about circuits of life force meet modern astrophysics, and they line up shockingly well. So, plasma is electricity active matter, a gas so energized that electrons break free from atoms, making it highly conductive. Over 99% of the visible universe is plasma, stars, solar wind, and nebulae galaxies. It doesn't behave like a solid liquid or a gas, it flows like a living organism, guided by electric currents and magnetic fields that self-organize into circuits. Plasma naturally forms into toroidal donut-shaped fields, the same sacred circuit pattern we discussed. And why? Because charged particles spiral along magnetic field lines, looping outward and back inward. Like this. Let me find that right. So stars, like the sun, are the coronal loops acting outward and returning through the sunspots. The planets are Earth's magnetosphere plus the auroras, plasma entering and exiting the poles. The galaxies, spiral arms channeling plasma inward and outward, and black holes, plasma jets shooting out from poles looping through the interstellar space. Plasma self-organizes. It forms these Birkeland currents and these cosmic wires that stretch light years long. These currents twist around each other like DNA helices, creating double-layered charged boundaries like cell membranes. Plasma operates through feedback. When energy flows too strongly, plasma regulates itself, forming knots, filaments, and vortices to stabilize the current. The monad is source, which equals the central singularity, the core. The sacred circuit is the plasma looping outward and returning inward. So plasma dynamics is literally the physical embodiment of the monad expressing itself in motion. Plasma is the language of God written in electricity. The universe does not sit silent. It pulses, it breathes, thinks through circulating fire. What mystics call chi, prana, logos, Holy Spirit, plasma physicists call dynamic electromagnetic fields. One speaks in poetry, the other in equations, but they're describing the same serpent of light. Current creates magnetic fields, and the magnetic field shapes the current, and the loop stabilizes into the torus. When electrified plasma is confined within magnetic fields, simulating Earth's magnetosphere, it gives rise to strange and striking forms shaped by electric discharge and the invisible structure of magnetic lines. These glowing patterns resemble images long embedded in human myth. The Holy Grail, without its base, distorted Tibetan masks, and androgynous beings like the Baphomet. Ancient observers seeing these phenomena in the sky interpret them as divine. One figure in particular appears across cultures and time: the squatting man, a radiant humanoid shape etched into the rock art and memory, a celestial archetype born of storms and light. And I want to share this clip from a movie called Megiddo. Let's see here. And that's about the end times. But I thought that particular clip was really interesting when I saw it again this year, because that to me was why I called the stream the plasma veil of the electromagnetic Messiah. That to me is the coming of what Christians call the coming of Jesus Christ. Such cosmic visions were not merely seen, they were storied across mythologies. We find God suspended, bound, or sacrificed, Jesus on the cross, Odin hung from Yggdrasil, Prometheus chained to the mountain. Each affixed to a cosmic axis, the world tree, the beam, the cross, enduring, suffering not as mere punishment but as transformation. These reoccurring motifs suggest a shared symbolic language where celestial events were translated into spiritual meaning. Perhaps what early humans witnessed in the heavens, these vibrant electric apparitions, become the seeds of our sacred symbols. Plasma, after all, is the most abundant state of matter in the universe. In its chaotic beauty, shaped by invisible force, it gave birth to forms that inspire awe, fear, and meaning. And from that meaning, myth. From that myth, gods. And from the gods, a lineage written in light. Life is described as a spiral connecting the microcosm, DNA, chakras, inner energy, to the macrocosm, stars, galaxies, and universal energy. This spiral expresses all levels of soul and consciousness. The self is not a single entity, but a complex structure composed of many layers. From the physical body to subtle energy, to mind and higher wisdom. These layers act like mirrors reflecting back a false sense of identity. Most people remain unaware of these deeper layers, which are constantly shaping life from the unconscious. Wisdom and happiness are not entitlements, but earned through inner labor. From matter to spirit, the trail of evolution, the journey from ignorance to wisdom, or matter to spirit, is likened to a trail through nature. It's filled with obstacles, but purposeful effort, exertion, and it accelerates progress. From the smallest cell to the living earth, currents flow. Cells pulse with electric whispers. Organisms glow in soft bioplasmic halos. The planet itself breathes through an ionized skin, a shimmering plasma field infused with bioelectric signatures of all who live upon it. Ritual, geometry, sound, these are all the bridges, ancient languages through which consciousness touches the invisible fabric of force. Science hesitates, calling it speculative, but mystics smile, calling it obvious, yet both circle the same truth. Life and awareness are not separate things, but threads of a single current, an energetic continuum binding the microcosm to the macrocosm, the self to the world, the visible to the unseen. The spectrum is one, and we are in its luminous expression. By the golden law of convergence, I command alignment. I awaken the code of harmony inscribed in the tuning of the galaxies, in the spiral of the shells, in the fingerprint of the divine. This is the hour foretold. Humanity tuned to the heartbeat of creation. The vortex opens, the music of the spheres calls us home, and I surrender to the spiral, to the golden ratio, to the mathematics of love. I am the living equation. human and cosmos, perfectly aligned. Now, the same kind of cosmic drama may be building again. Earth's magnetic field is weakening, the poles are shifting, and new celestial visitors like Comet 3I Atlas and the rumored Planet X may be adding gravitational and magnetic stress to our system. When Earth's shield thins, solar storms and interplanetary plasma currents can strike deeper into the atmosphere, what ancient texts might have called fire from heaven. If the sun releases a micronova or strong coronal mass ejection during this unstable phase, it could trigger global auroras, electrical surges, and atmospheric ignition. A modern version of the plasma apocalypse described in myth, scripture called them birth pains. The Earth's groaning as magnetic fields reverse, continents drift farther apart, and volcanoes awaken to forge new land. The planet renewing itself. In that light, Revelation's imagery, the dragon's tail, sweeping through the stars, the heavens rolling back like a scroll, might be ancient eyewitnesses' accounts of the sky itself electrified. The old world ending, a reset, and from the chaos, the dawn of another golden age. The Garden of Eden becomes the primordial state of energetic coherence, where humanity lived attuned to the planetary body, aware of its subtle rhythms and currents. The fall represents the loss of that attunement, or decoherence, and the work of Christ, the saints, and the mystics in all traditions is to restore the harmony. Through this lens, the earth is not inert matter, but the living temple of God, a bioplasma field infused with logos and prana. Christianity and Eastern mysticism are not opposed but complementary languages for the same truth. The universe is alive, dynamic, and conscious, and we are cells within its greater body. Our task is to awaken, to breathe with it, and to participate in the cosmic dance of creation. This is the new Genesis, not a past event, but an ongoing plasmatic event where spirit continually flows into matter, awakening itself into countless forms. I just want to take a moment to thank all of the other YouTube creators out there, the ones digging and questioning, connecting the dots, and daring to look beyond the screen of lies we've been fed. Your work has inspired me to push deeper into my own research, to see through the noise of politics and the illusions of religion that were designed to divide us and keep us small. For too long, we've been blinded by consumerism, fear, and self-gratification, the very traps that disconnect us from our own divine circuitry within. You've reminded me that awakening isn't about following another's system. It's about remembering who we are, sparks of something greater, capable of creating, healing, and seeing truth for ourselves. As Jesus warned, beware the rulers, the merchants, and the teachers of the law, those who profit from our confusion. The time has come to rise above the deception, to reconnect with Source inside of us, and to help others to do the same. So thank you, truly, to everyone out there shining light in the dark corners of our history, science, and spirit. Keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep creating. And together, we're remembering what it means to be awake, free, and fully alive. Until next time, I'll see you all again. Take care, stay safe, and be blessed.